This is the story of how grocery distribution centers move food at a massive scale while staying almost invisible to shoppers. This video explains what happens inside a grocery distribution center, how these facilities are organized, and why they quietly determine whether grocery stores stay stocked, safe, and predictable. Grocery stores rarely receive products straight from farms or factories because coordinating hundreds of suppliers store by store would quickly become unmanageable. Distribution centers sit in the middle, acting as the system that absorbs complexity, so individual stores do not have to. Instead of each store juggling separate deliveries, the distribution center consolidates shipments from many producers into one controlled flow. That consolidation reduces delivery frequency, lowers transportation costs, and creates predictable schedules, which meant grocery retail could scale beyond local sourcing. What nobody sees is how much coordination this removes from the store level. Without distribution centers, inventory planning would become fragmented, deliveries would overlap, and food waste would rise as timing slipped out of sync. The result was a centralized system designed to keep shelves stocked while staying almost entirely out of view. Grocery distribution does not resemble a typical warehouse, and the difference begins with variety. One major grocery wholesaler reported offering about 250,000 products, which immediately changes how space, labor, and timing must work together. Most warehouses ship pallets of a single product, but grocery distribution works in the opposite direction. Mixed pallets dominate the operation, which meant cases of many different products are stacked together to match the exact needs of each store. That stacking follows a precise order tied to delivery routes and store layouts, and this is where the system either holds together or starts to fail. A single misplaced case can slow unloading, disrupt shelf stocking, and ripple into delays across an entire route. The problem was never moving food in bulk. The challenge has always been moving variety with accuracy. Inside a grocery distribution center, movement follows a repeatable pattern designed for speed and control. Inbound receiving comes first, where trucks from suppliers arrive and products are unloaded, scanned, and logged into inventory systems using barcodes. Some shipments move straight through the building using cross-docking, which meant they spend little time inside the facility at all. Other products enter storage, where systems assign them to reserve locations until stores need replenishment. Replenishment shifts inventory from reserve storage into active pick areas, and that transition keeps picking operations running without interruption. Order picking follows, and in grocery distribution, this usually means selecting full cases rather than individual items. Pallet building comes next, and this is where sequencing matters most. Cases are stacked so the last store on a delivery route sits at the bottom, while the first store's products stay on top, which meant unloading happens in the correct order without reshuffling. Every scan along the way updates location and status, and that constant feedback loop keeps errors from multiplying. Food safety places hard limits on how grocery distribution centers operate. The USDA defines a danger zone between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and bacteria can double in as little as 20 minutes inside that range. FDA rules add another constraint, requiring many refrigerated foods to remain at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Those numbers force distribution centers to divide themselves into temperature zones rather than operate as a single open space. Dry goods move through ambient areas, refrigerated items stay in chilled zones, and frozen products remain isolated in sub-zero environments. Timing becomes just as important as temperature because extended exposure during staging or loading can undo careful storage. The result was a system where doors, docks, and workflows are arranged around temperature risk rather than convenience. That design choice protects shelf life, limits spoilage, and reduces waste long before food ever reaches a store. Scale explains why these systems look the way they do. Industry analysis describes a typical full-line grocery distribution center as 850,000 to 1 million square feet, staffed by roughly 750 to 800 workers. Those facilities often serve stores located about 134 miles away, which meant route planning and delivery timing became as important as storage. Distance shapes everything from pallet configuration to how long a truck can wait at a dock. Real-world examples make that scale easier to grasp. In July 2024, a 730,000 square foot perishable distribution center opened in Lancaster, Texas, built specifically to handle fresh and frozen categories like produce, dairy, eggs, and flowers. At the wholesale level, the footprint grows even larger. United Natural Foods reported operating 53 distribution centers and warehouses totaling approximately 31 million square feet, showing how widespread these systems have become. None of this scale works without standardized identification. In April 1973, grocery industry leaders selected a barcode standard that later became the Universal Product Code. That choice paid off quickly. On June 26, 1974, the first retail barcode scan occurred at a grocery store in Troy, Ohio, marking the beginning of modern grocery tracking. Inside distribution centers, every case scan links physical movement to digital records. That connection tells the system what arrived, where it sits, and which store will receive it next. Mixed pallets, route sequencing, and inventory accuracy all depend on that link. Without barcodes, grocery distribution would slow down, errors would multiply, and traceability would collapse under its own weight. Even with automation expanding, grocery distribution remains labor-intensive. As of May 2023, the Bureau of Labor Statistics counted 2,872,680 stockers and order fillers in the United States, earning a median hourly wage of $18.27. These roles demand physical endurance, repetitive motion, and constant attention to pace. That workload shows up in injury data, which revealed warehouse injury and illness rates of 5.5 cases per 100 workers in 2021, more than double the all-industry average. Those numbers shape how facilities are designed and staffed. They also explain why companies continue searching for ways to reduce strain while keeping throughput high. The workforce remains central, even as the tools around it change. Automation entered grocery distribution as a response to volume and consistency rather than novelty. Retailers invested in automated storage, robotic case handling, and palletizing systems to stabilize operations under growing demand. In April 2023, one major retailer stated that by the end of fiscal year 2026, about 65% of its stores would be serviced by automation. That same plan projected 55% of fulfillment volume moving through automated facilities, with unit cost improvements estimated at 20%. Expansion followed quickly. Reporting in July 2024 described plans for 5 high-tech perishable distribution centers, each designed to process more than twice as many temperature-sensitive goods per hour as traditional facilities. Automation shifted work rather than eliminating it. Tasks moved toward monitoring systems, maintaining equipment, and coordinating flows that machines now handle at scale. Beyond moving food, distribution centers carry responsibility for documentation. The Food Safety Modernization Act introduced a traceability rule requiring detailed records for certain foods as they move through the supply chain. The original compliance date was January 20, 2026, which pushed many companies to begin updating systems. Congress later directed the FDA not to enforce the rule before July 20, 2028, and the agency stated it intends to follow that direction. That extension did not remove the underlying requirement. Distribution centers still need systems that connect inbound shipments to internal handling and outbound deliveries. Preparing for traceability means adjusting labels, scans, and data sharing long before enforcement begins. Distribution centers rarely appear in price discussions, yet they influence costs in quiet ways. Efficiency inside these facilities affects how often stores receive deliveries, how predictable inventory becomes, and how much product gets wasted. Smooth operations keep shelves stocked without excess handling. Stranded systems slow replenishment, increase labor pressure, and create inefficiencies that ripple outward. Prices are not set inside distribution centers. What happens there shapes costs through labor, transportation, automation investment, and the ability to move food without loss. The shopping experience begins long before anyone reaches the aisle. If this kind of explanation is useful to you, subscribe to Inside the Grocery System as we focus on how food supply chains and grocery operations actually work. New videos break down different parts of the system as they change. This video explained how grocery distribution centers operate as the unseen backbone of the grocery system. Inside these facilities, barcodes, temperature control, labor, automation, and record keeping work together to move food safely and predictably at massive scale. Most shoppers will never walk through a distribution center. Every stocked shelf depends on one. Behind the grocery aisle sits a system built for reliability, and that reliability is what keeps the grocery system running day after day.